Hi, my name is Frank Scarcello. You're watching Frank Conversations at Thunder Bay Live, and I'm obviously pleasure to have Mayor Keith Hobbs as my guest. Thank you for coming in, Keith.
My pleasure, Frank.
Nice to see you again. And guess what we're going to talk about?
The event center?
Right on.
Or chicken coops?
Chicken coops. Okay. No, we're going to talk, the event center. So I think everyone in the community has probably heard that the city has been rejected, it's a tough word, again for funding. So this is what was not the news that you were expecting or hoping to hear. And so you must be disappointed and probably perplexed as to what happened. So give me your thoughts, please.
Yeah, those two words come to mind, Frank. Obviously, we're disappointed as a council and a little perplexed in that Minister Sohi talked about professional and semi-professional sports facilities when we clearly stated in the letter to him a few months ago that Lakehead University Thunderbolts would be the anchor tenant for hockey, and that's an amateur sports team. Mm-hmm. So we want clarification on that one, definitely. And another thing that's really confusing and perplexing is all the way through the feasibility stages of this project, we received federal and provincial money, and they knew up front what the project was designed. The design was, and I'd really like Minister Sohi to explain to me and to council what a amateur facility looks like, what the design of that looks like, because we've been led to believe ever since we started this project, and this project started in 2009 before I was mayor, and we carried it on the last two terms of council. I'd like him to explain to me, or his assistant now, because that's what we're being handed off to, what an amateur facility looks like. Because I certainly don't know, none of our council knows, and it's just bizarre.
I think it's fair point that you make that you want a more complete answer. Yes, whether even if it's a no, but because I think they owe you that. But to get back to the beginning of this whole process, and I've been a critic about this. Was it a mistake in the beginning to use a professional hockey team as your main tenant when it was clear that the funding, even under the Conservatives, was we don't fund pro hockey teams? But you answered part of it.
Yeah.
You guys thought you had the green light.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wasn't clear that we couldn't team up with the Winnipeg Jets, and who wouldn't want to team up with the Winnipeg Jets, a professional hockey team, or a Minnesota Wild, or any professional hockey team? That would be ideal.
Yes.
And we were never told by the government, no, you can't do that, until we heard from Minister LaBelle last year. So that's when we revamped our plans, and we brought in Lakehead University as the lead tenant, and we were led to believe by Minister LaBelle that that would be okay, that would fall within the parameters of the funding. So we changed the plan, and now we're being told, no, not even amateur teams apply. So like, what is it? Like, tell us. At least if you told us, no, we're not even going to entertain you teaming up with an amateur team, then at least we know where to go for our next plan to replace Fort Wayne Gardens, because this is what this is all about. This is replacing the Fort Wayne Gardens.
Exactly. And I think everyone would agree that the Gardens has to be replaced. Some people would say, not now, we can do it in the future, but that's we're not going to debate that right here.
Well, you know what? It's been 9 years since we've started this plan, so how long do you want to go? Another 10 years, 19 years before we look at replacing the Gardens? Moncton, $20 million from the feds to build an event center, and they have a junior A hockey team there. That's professional sports. Hamilton Tiger Cats just got a $70 million refurbishment of their stadium. The RBC Center, I believe it's called, or stadium. And no, I'm sorry, it's a Tim Hortons Stadium in Hamilton. $70 million from the feds in the province so that the Hamilton Tiger Cats could play in a professional facility. What am I missing here?
On Facebook, there was a guy that made a good point, so I'm going to sort of repeat it. Could the city have made a better job of communicating to the federal government what this project is all about, or has the federal government done a poor job of communicating to municipalities, you know, what they will fund? It seems to be, you know, does that make sense? Is that fair?
Well, I'll tell you, former city manager Tim Camiso and I drove to Sioux Lookout to meet with Minister Greg Rickford, who is supposedly our champion on this project, and he knew the plans right from day one. So no one from the federal government can tell, including Minister LaBelle, including Minister Sohi, can tell us that they weren't clear on what the project was. They funded us, FedNor and NOHFC funded us to do the feasibility study. So for anyone to say that the public wasn't advised, we had so many public sessions on this. We've been to the government, we've been to the provincial government probably 4 years in a row now at OGRA and AMO, given our plans to the infrastructure ministers. They know the plan. Well,
mentioning Rickford, you know, you must have been even perplexed that time as well when he said, you know, oh, you know, this looks like a hockey rink. You know, it was a little bit, you know.
And you know what? That's the thing that drives me crazy as well. Hockey will be 20 events at that event center. If we build an event center at the cost of $114 million for 20 hockey events, you should run me out of town on a rail.
Okay.
Because that's absolutely ridiculous that people would think that we're building a hockey rink here. We're building an event center. Elton John just played in Sault Ste. Marie and he played in Duluth. And he said to the crowd, I bet you never thought you'd see Elton John here. Why can't Elton John come to Thunder Bay? You know why? Because we don't have a facility.
Okay.
Why shouldn't we enjoy what other municipalities in Canada are enjoying?
So based on some remarks that you made yesterday, it sounds like you're going to keep fighting.
Definitely. You know what? There's no quitting me. I don't like to quit, neither does our council. We're united on this, albeit it was an 8-4 vote, I believe. But to proceed with funding at the federal and provincial level, it was a unanimous vote by council. Okay. So, you know what? We need a facility. The Gardens is a useless building. And if you look at Moose Jaw, you look at Kingston, you look at Kelowna, Sault Ste. Marie, Duluth, I can name dozens and dozens of mid-sized cities in Canada that have new facilities that are bringing entertainment, they're bringing shows, they're bringing first-class hockey. What's wrong with us? Maybe, though, if I design it like a chicken coop, we should be able to bring it home to Thunder Bay.
Exactly. Okay. What's Plan C then?
You know, we're going to keep hammering away at the feds in the province to fund this facility. Plan C would be replace the Fort Wayne Gardens as just a hockey rink. Okay. And I think that would be a shame because people in the city want more than just hockey. It is a hockey town. It's hockey central. You can say that till the cows come home. I mean, look at the product we put out.
Of course.
From the city, but I think to attract conventions, to attract shows, to really put Thunder Bay on the map, this is a great project. So
do you think we can pull it off? Okay, let's assume that we're not going to get funding. Because you know, right now, we've heard that twice, so it can change. But
Frank, this option is cheaper than building just a hockey rink. I'll tell you right now, with this option, the city would have to throw in about $35 million. To build a hockey rink, we're on our own. That's going to cost you, in today's dollars, probably $70 million to $80 million. Fine, if that's what the city wants, we'll put that forward. I don't get the logic. If I can get third funding, why wouldn't I get that?
The leveraging would create a bigger facility, you know, convention center, you know, bigger seats. But, you know, sometimes people have to compromise and maybe a scaled back version, you know, less seats, just a hockey rink, you know, might be what the city rallies around, right?
Well, yeah, I think Thunder Bay deserves more than that.
Okay, and that's fair. Really you know, you want, and there's nothing wrong with wanting the deluxe model. You know, some people like deluxe pizza, some people just like pepperoni, right?
Exactly.
You know, okay. What did I want to ask? Okay, so this with the minister, could you explain how this was pitched to them? And because it's something I'm always curious about. Did you ever have a face-to-face with them? Did you ever have a phone call with them?
No, you know, it was a letter. The government had just taken over, and we figured we'd strike while the iron's hot. When the infrastructure program came out, there's phase 1 for transit and stormwater infrastructure, green infrastructure, which is great because we need those dollars. We're talking about phase 2, the new Building Canada Fund, and rolling out for recreational facilities, which is in their list. So we thought we would strike early and see if we could get that funding. So, you know, I mean, we're still doing our due diligence, and we're going to keep pushing.
Like I think a lot of people in the community are thinking that the city has a lot on its plate right now. Everyone knows we have a deficit going in halfway through the year here. You know, we have the conservatory, we have the art gallery, we have this damn pest. This EAB arrived, and I know you made a good point at council. That's depressing. You know what I mean? We could lose 25% of our trees.
Definitely, that's a huge issue. For Thunder Bay.
Garbage tax. We have a potential. So isn't there a little bit, if this doesn't go ahead, isn't there a little bit of a silver lining in that we do have the money in the piggy bank?
Yeah. For
some of these projects, and I haven't even mentioned roads, that at some point. Is that point, do you see that, is that reasonable?
Definitely. You know what? We can take the 21 million that's left in the Renew Thunder Bay Fund and use it for those programs. But that Renew Fund was set up to leverage other levels of government funding. So that $21 million there could equate to $63 million if we leverage it properly. So I don't just want to spend it. I think that's irresponsible. If you look at the Standard & Poor's report that just came out, Thunder Bay's economy is great. We've improved 2 rankings. We're at now AA+ positive rating. I think that's fantastic. Our reserve to debt ratio is way better than it's ever been. So we've been told that we're in great financial shape as a city. Do we have challenges coming at us? The emerald ash borer is probably our #1 issue right now in the city. If we lose 25% of our canopy, it's disaster, recipe for disaster. So we definitely need funds for that. But I also want to go to the feds in the province for that funding as well. The emerald ash borer is brought over from China on crates, and Ministry of Transport dropped the ball on that. And the province didn't do anything to stop its migration to Thunder Bay. That problem wasn't born in Thunder Bay. No. So I'm saying to the feds and province, give us some money to combat that.
Okay, last question. Do you think public support for the event center, since over the last few years, it has been rising, dropping, or staying the same?
Well, if you read the media, it's waning for sure. It's dropping because we never hear anything positive. I don't hear any groups coming out to support it, albeit people tell me everywhere I go, build that event center, get going on that event center. Where's Costco? They want to see this city grow. They don't want, and I've said it before, I don't want roads to nowhere or nothing in this city. We can build all the beautiful roads we want, but if they lead to nothing and nowhere, then you know what? Sorry, that's not the city I want to live in. I want to live in a progressive city where we have something for our kids to go to. We have events, we have conventions. We put Thunder Bay on the map. Stall Foundation, when we, City Council voted to support that, I was inundated with nasty emails. Why are we investing in golf? It's turned out to be one of the biggest hits in this city. It's brought attention to Thunder Bay worldwide. It's brought economy to the tune of $2 million every year for a $40,000 investment, $20,000 in cash,
great return,
and $20,000 in kind donations. So that's the kind of calculated risks that we take as a council and I take as a mayor. And you don't progress if you don't take risks. Absolutely.
Risk, but it's also, about managing that risk, getting that return with a minimum amount of risk. But anyway.
Totally agree with that.
We'll end on that note. Thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
And have a great summer. Maybe we'll see you at the Festa this weekend.
I'll be there.
Thanks for listening to Frank Conversations with Mayor Keith Hobbs. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.